Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics, Fighting Foemen. One of the cool things about Masters Classics is that not only do we get the well-known characters that everybody loves and remembers, but we oftentimes also get the more obscure characters from the history of the franchise. The Fighting Foemen here are just that, and there are actually a lot of little references all wrapped up to make this one set of action figures. The set comes in window box packaging similar to what we've seen with some past sets like the Star Sisters. The back of that box shows off a selection of other figures in the Classics line, an image of the figures within the box, and even a brand new bio for these characters. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about where these guys originate. The name Fighting Foemen comes from the very beginning of the Masters of the Universe toy line. It was one of the early proposed names for the line of action figures. The characters themselves all come from the artwork seen on the boxes for the vehicle model kits by Monogram, released in the 1980s. This includes the Attack Track Driver, the Roton Driver, and the Talon Fighter Pilot. So the colors and the general designs all originate from that vintage artwork. But each of the characters' names are homages to three very hardworking members of Four Horsemen Design. Shieldmaiden Sherilyn is named after Sherry Lynn Cook. Destroyer, named after Shane Ditzworth. And Dogator, named after Owen O-Dog! Their likenesses aren't exactly sculpted after those three, but there are some fun little details that are also direct nods, such as Shieldmaiden Sherilyn's mole, and the gray streak in Dogator's hair. The paint jobs on the characters are very bright and colorful, and actually do a great job of matching up with that vintage box art, even though you can't really see the full characters. Each of them also have designs worked into their outfits and their weapons that directly correlates to the vehicles they drove in that vintage box art, which is another cool homage. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the Fighting Foemen. We've got actually a lot to talk about with these guys, so let's get right into it. First of all, let's go ahead and run down the articulation on each of them. Since all three of them are wearing very different costumes from one another, we'll go ahead and run through the articulation on all three of them so you can see how it works. So Shieldmaiden Sherilyn here, you can move the head both left and right. You can bobble it up and down just a little bit. She does have this ponytail hanging out of the back of the helmet there, but it doesn't hinder the movement. Shoulders move outwards very well, forwards and backwards. You do have the swivels at the bicep cut right there, which is very nice. You got the standard elbow joint and the swivel at the wrist. You can rotate her waist there. This is very similar to what we've seen with Battleground Teela. So of course when you turn the waist it is a little funky looking, but she does have the ability to turn the waist there. She does also have that same articulation as Battleground Teela, so the legs are the same on this particular figure here. The knee joints are standard. The ankle joints are really nice, and since she's based on the Battleground Teela legs, she does have the nice little ankle pivots there, so you can actually rotate the ankles sideways, which is really cool, so that should really help with some nice posing there. So overall, that works really great. Like I said, the body is very similar to Battleground Teela, so that's exactly what to expect with this. If you've already got that figure, you know pretty much how her articulation is going to work. Loincloth is soft. You can get her in a sitting pose, so if you wanted to have her drive an attack track, if there was one that could fit these, she could do it. You can stick her on the Wind Raider or something like that if you want to. As far as the armor goes, the helmet is part of the sculpt on the head, so the helmet does not come off. You can remove the head if you want to, pops right off, but the helmet is non-removable as part of the sculpt. Also with the armor, Scott Toy Guru had mentioned at Toy Fair that her armor was really hard to get back on when he took it off, and he recommended folks not take it off. I think Mattel opted to make the armor non-removable because it seems to me that the armor is glued in place. It doesn't have the little fasteners on it, and I can't get it off. it looks like it's glued together. So I think they opted to make the armor non-removable. You can kind of peel it up, and you can notice that she does have a red bra painted on underneath, but the armor itself doesn't seem to come off the figure, so that's worth noting. Alright, let's go ahead and move on over to Dogator. Alright, so the head can turn left and right, move up and down. He does have the long hair in the back, so that is going to kind of hinder the movement a little bit when moving the head left and right. Articulation on the body is very basic. The shoulders can move upwards all the way. You can see the shoulder armor doesn't get in the way of it, which is really nice. You can still get a full range of motion there. Elbow joints, wrist joints. He can still rock at the torso. He can swivel at the waist. He's got the softer loincloth piece, so you can get him in a great sitting pose, so you can fly the Talon Fighter, or the Wind Raider, since it's the only vehicle we have. Legs can move outwards, standard knee joints, swivels at the boot cut, no pins, and very, very, very tight ankles with the click. So that is very nice. Really nice, sturdy articulation on this guy here. Same thing. The helmet is non-removable. Same with the little blaster in front of his eyes. That's really cool because you can see the sculpt underneath it, but it doesn't come off. It's glued on, or it's part of the helmet there. You could probably pry it off if you really wanted to, but it's glued on in place. It's not meant to be removed. Head can pop off, of course. Armor is the same as what we've seen on some of the other figures. It's just got the little fastens in the back. Let's see if we can get that off there. The armor is thick, so it's actually kind of hard to get your finger underneath. Oh no, Sherilyn! There we go. So it just peels up off the back just like that, and just like with any of your other armor on the figures, it just peels right off of the figure, pulls off the head, you pop the head off, it just comes right off the neck there. And then we can snap that back on in place. Alright, and lastly, let's look at the Destroyer. This particular character is wearing a cowl and a cape. The cape is just like we've seen with all the other Masters Classics figures. It's soft, it's flexible. You can see there's really nothing on this guy at all that's going to hinder the articulation, so it's going to be very standard. He's got the torso crunch, he's got the waist swivel, he's got the same softer loincloth that we've got on Dogator there, so the legs move outwards. You can get him in a sitting pose, so if we ever got a Roton, he can sit in the Roton, except for maybe the cape. He's got no pins on the ankles there, so the joints are very tight on the feet, and all the same articulation applies. So articulation on these guys is really great. I really love the way that they're made. They all have very, very tight joints, so that is very nicely done. Now, each of these guys do have their own little unique action feature that's going to allow you to change up their display options. You'll notice, and as I mentioned, each of them have an insignia on their chest, which is kind of an homage to the vehicles that they were driving in the vintage box art on those model kits. So Destroyer's got the face of the Roton right there on his chest. You've got a Talon Fighter styled insignia right there on the chest of Dogator. And you've got an attack track symbol right there on the front of the armor of Sherilyn. Now what's cool about that is each of them come with these little horde emblems. The reason for that is because the bio on the box actually does explain that these three do end up joining the horde at some point. So if you want to, you can swap out these little insignias and you can put these horde logos on there, and then you can put them as part of your horde in your collection if you feel like beefing up your horde. So let me show you how that works. First of all, let me show you this. On Dogator here, you'll notice the insignia is actually attached to the cape. The cape can just slide right off the figure, so there's no hole in his actual chest. It's attached to the cape there. So we can pop his head back on, and if we want to swap it out, you just pull it off. You can see there's just a little hole right there in the front of the cape. There's just a little hook, a little peg on the back of the insignia. It works the same way on the back of the little horde logo there. Just kind of pop it on in place. It fits very nicely because the cape is kind of that softer rubbery material, so it's very easy to snap it on, and it holds in place very firm. And now, Destroyer is a member of the horde. So it works in a very similar fashion for Dogator here, except his is attached to his armor. See, there's a hole in the front of his armor. It's the exact same style peg hole though, so you can pop that off. You can stick the horde emblem on him. All of these horde logos are shaped a little different. You'll notice that his is a little more curved at the top to kind of fit the armor that he's wearing, while Destroyer's is a little flat, and then Sherilyn's is a little smaller so that it fits perfectly on her armor. So same with hers. You can pop off the little insignia off of her armor. There just puts a little hole in the armor there, which that also you can see the little red bra painted on underneath. And then we can pop on the horde insignia in its place. So now, the fighting foemen are members of the evil horde. Now you're probably wondering if you can actually switch some of these insignias around. I'm sure that question's going to come up, so let's go ahead and try it. We'll stick, there you go. Dogator's logo can fit right there on Destroyer. We can put, you know, the little Roton logo. Let's see. Oh, yep, you can squeeze it on Dogator there. All of the pegs are the same size, so I believe even the one on Sherilyn. There you go. So you can swap all of these if you want to. They're completely interchangeable with one another, and it just adds even more display options for your collection, which is pretty cool.
Alright, so let's take a look at all those weapons. I really love these. Sherilyn has a cool blue blaster with a grip in the middle that looks like it's directly off that Attack Track model kit. She also includes a large shield that resembles one of the Attack Track's treads. The shield can be clipped right on her wrist, and it does have the smaller and longer clip piece on there, similar to a lot of the shields we've seen on the Princess of Power figures. Destroyer has a large red blaster that looks like the large blasters that sit on top of the Roton vehicle. It's also large enough so that it can be held two-handed for some nice rifle blasting poses. In addition, he features a staff that has a decoration at the top that is shaped just like the Roton, complete with red blades circling it. One thing I love is that he features a holster on his cape that you can actually store the staff in when he's not holding it. Dogator comes with a club that is shaped like one of the laser cannons on the Talon Fighter model kit. He also has a large shield shaped like the Talon Fighter itself, colored the way the model kit version was. These particular characters may not be for everyone, but stuff like this is one of my personal favorite things about this toy line. These guys are a ball of references, and there are many ways you can display them. You can use them as an evil group of pirates, just as the box suggests. Or perhaps you can use them as vehicle drivers, just as they appeared on that vintage box art. Or you can pop on those Horde logos and use them to bolster the ranks of the evil Horde. Lots of display options here, and 3 very nice looking action figures. The Fighting Foemen will be available on May 15th on MattyCollector.com and are part of the 2013 Eternian Collectors Club subscription. Until next time...